everybody, and welcome to this special on Venus transiting in Pisces. It's a special year for Venus this year because it's going retrograde, and it only ever does that every other year. I'm Amani. I'm a karmic, holistic, astrological life coach, and I like to go in depth in all that I do, and all of my interpretations, especially when it comes to Venus, Mercury, Sun transits and everything really, are based on Vedic astrology, which is based on where the planets or the luminaries, which are the sun and the moon, are any given time in the sky, and all times are in GMT time as well. So yeah, thanks for listening, and yeah. So yeah, on the 28th of January, Venus goes retrograde while still in Pisces, and then Venus goes direct while still in Pisces on the 13th of April. So yeah, so in this special, I'm just talking about the energy of Venus in Pisces. First, I'm going to give you the summary version, which is like 3 to 5 minutes long, and then if you want the intricacies about how it affects your relationships, career, spiritual and other development, and a real deep dive into the karmic and other meanings, then listen on after, the 2 to 5 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes, whatever. Yeah. So positively, Venus in Pisces is all about us being creative and tapping into the vibrations of unconditional love, and it can feel like, if we're open to it, especially if you've got a lot of Neptune, Jupiter, Sagittarius and 12th house Pisces energy in your natal chart, it can sort of like feel like being wrapped in a warm, comforting blanket of unconditional love and creativity. It also gives us the ability to emphasize and care more about our own emotions and other people's emotions as well, and we can just be more kind and selfless in general, and this can help us build more balance and harmony into our relationships, and also develop a sense of unity, connectedness within the world around us and within us as well. On the creative level, Venus in Pisces, when it transits here, is like a muse that kind of lights up a flow of creativity and imagination. So if you are creative, an artist, musician or writer or whatever, this is a golden opportunity to explore new techniques, new avenues of expression. It pushes us to dream big and break down obstacles and defense mechanisms, allowing our creative spirit to flow freely, and just being open to working through our emotions, because often it's our emotions that block us from being creative, right? So on the negative end, the dreamy nature of Pisces can make us slip into escapism or overthinking, over idealization, ignoring red flags, wanting everything to be positive, ignoring the negative. We can sort of like view the world through rose tinted glasses, and this can just lead to us having unrealistic expectations, and this can cause disappointment. So although this energy can tempt us to avoid reality, seeking sort of like time out, refuge in fantasies and addictive behaviours and thoughts and toxic ways of relating to ourselves and others, it's important to stay grounded during this time, balancing our dreams with reality, not ignoring the red flags, ignoring the manipulations, asking ourselves why we want to ignore the red flags. What is it about us? Do we feel we're not strong enough? Realising that us being idealistic can cloud our judgment and lead to us being illusioned in the long run. In the short term, pretending that everything's all right in the committed relationship can be good, right? But in the long term, the relationship is built on a lie, and eventually, it could end the relationship. So it's better to, keep your feet on the ground and be honest and create a active listening space for you and whoever to talk and sort through your issues rather than run away from them. But you can still allow your imagination to run away a little and get wild with it, but just remember to stay grounded. So the best use of this energy is to work on compassion, building self-love and respect and understanding and forgiveness, and digging deep into your creative plans and doing the things that encourage emotional healing and connection. Maybe volunteering, practicing forgiveness, having them sort of like deep, meaningful conversations with those you care about, and being, just nice in general, at least pleasant, not fake, but pleasant in general, to avoid conflicts as well, not to allow others to overstep your boundaries or overstep others' boundaries. So just allow yourself to take new ways of solving your problems, new ways of being, new ways of expressing yourself, vibing with creative projects that allow you to be in connection with emotions right now. And meditation and spiritual practices can deepen your connection with the divine and level up your intuitive insights. Balancing the dreamy qualities of Pisces with practical actions can just help you, grow and develop and enrich your life with more beauty and love and acceptance, and other people's life as well. So when Venus is in Pisces, it's a good time to open our hearts and go with the flow without being, silly with it. We don't take any cap, we don't ignore those red flags, but we don't shut off the possibilities of opening our hearts to the right person and opening all people and opening our hearts to ourselves. So yeah, that's the summary version. So now I'm going to talk about the practical meanings, the financial, political and social collective meanings of Venus in Pisces. So yeah, as I said, on the practical level, it wants us to see the world through a lens of compassion rather than judgment and blaming and self-hate and regret. It wants us to volunteer, understand ourselves and others more, so work on that, and to sort of like spread some kindness, not only to others but to ourselves. Negatively, we can overcommit and feel emotionally drained, so we have to make sure we implement our boundaries and find the balance between taking care of our own needs and the needs of other people, balancing compassion with self-care, and make sure you don't compromise your own well-being while trying to help those around you. So you can ask yourself things like, what boundaries could you set up or enforce that can help you protect your energy and space, Financially, it wants us to take more of an intuitive approach to wealth. So it's a great time for investing in creative or spiritual activities or plans or businesses, if you can, that resonate with your personal values. And trusting your instincts right now can lead to good outcomes, especially, when it comes to being creative, like making music, doing holistic spiritual practices, anything to do with the 12th house, which is, giving back to others, charity, helping those who are imprisoned mentally, or, writing to someone in an institution, but in a safe way. You have to remember that sometimes, not to say anyone's good or bad, but just make sure you don't ignore red flags as well, and don't do things to compromise your well-being and safety. Negatively, we can have unrealistic expectations in what we spend our time and money on right now. We can be impulsive in our spending, overindulging in intoxicating substances and experiences, and that can lead to us missing important financial commitments like paying our rent. So it's important to stay grounded and make sure your financial choices are backed by practical considerations to avoid falling for get rich quick schemes or being overly optimistic, falling for schemes and plans that are not grounded in reality, and not overindulging as well. So just ask yourself how you can keep your financial feet on the ground while still dreaming big and nurturing yourself as well. So on a political level, Venus transiting in Pisces can bring a stronger focus on wanting justice and wanting to get involved with more charitable sort of like efforts, plans, schemes and policies that encourage equality, peace and support for those who are vulnerable, such as homeless population, stuff like that. It can create a desire for unity and understanding, and it kind of pushes political figures, leaders to talk about and address social issues with more creativity and empathy. Negatively, it can lead to unrealistic promises or idealistic visions that are hard to, implement to do in real life. So it can lead to a well-meaning but impractical sort of like policies and ideas where the desire to help isn't matched by good realistic solutions. It's not feasible, like telling people who have maybe never worked in their lives to just go and get a job. It may seem easy for those who have always worked, but for others it's harder. So, in order to solve the problem of that problem, you have to really look at the psychological, emotional and spiritual reasons as well as the physical and economical reasons for that, and make changes in all those areas. But a lot of the time we just focus on things in different boxes, never seeing the whole holistic vibe, standpoint that we need to solve the world problems. So it's important for political leaders and those in charge, management, whatever, to balance their idealism with pragmatism right now and ensure that compassionate goals are achievable and grounded in reality, and ensuring that your ideals right now are translated into real world action, the practical, on the positive, worldly, materialistic level. It wants us to sort of like go inward towards a deeper sense of spiritual happiness. It wants us to look for meaning and purpose beyond material possessions and develop a greater appreciation for culture, art and being creative and the interconnectedness of all beings and things, having more compassion for our differences, building the bridge rather than, seeing everything as divided. It wants us to awaken to the beauty of the world and nurture a sense of global unity and compassion. But negatively, it can just lead to us being detached from the practical realities, ungrounded exploration into spiritual psychic things, and our creative ideals may overshadow our everyday commitments, responsibilities, like picking up the children, paying the bills. So we can lose sight of what needs to be done in the material world, and it's important to find a balance between our spiritual goals and the demands of daily life, and while making sure you stay grounded in reality while going after higher ideals, spiritual exploration and stuff like that. So you can ask yourself how you can stay connected to reality while exploring your dreams in the spiritual sort of like realm. So on a social level, it allows us to provide space and energy for understanding and acceptance in our communities, workplaces, relationships, and connect with others deeply, focusing on asking ourselves how we can contribute to developing more empathy in our world by developing it more within ourselves, by having compassion for our past mistakes and others who have hurt us, and working through our psychological, emotional and spiritual wounds, but negatively we can be vulnerable, and this can make us open to manipulation right now on the social level as well. We may feel a bit more naive, a bit more confused, and the desire for understanding may make us just want to believe the lies, and fall for misleading narratives. So it's important to remain discerning, which is being looking for both sides of what's being said, and critical, not to push out the good, but just to be aware it may not be good, and make sure that empathy and openness is balanced with awareness and sound judgment. So you can ask yourself how you can develop more discernment in your relationships. In terms of psychological meanings, it allows us to connect with our own emotions and those of others more deeply, making space for next level closeness in our relationships. It pushes us to have more self-reflection, to think about why we do and say the things we do, and have more self-compassion for the things that we do. And it helps us to heal wounds, psychological, spiritual, emotional, and release emotional baggage over time, over heartbreak, rejection, being different, being sensitive and stuff like that. Venus in Pisces, when it transits here, also allows us to express our subconscious, helping us acknowledge and integrate hidden feelings and emotions into our conscious awareness, and it provides us with the energy and space for psychological growth and resilience, building up strength and courage to be who we are, which can take time, 5, 10, 15 years, but just to keep on doing it, working on being yourself, and you'll get there, On the negative, in terms of the psychological meanings, again, we can avoid confronting difficult emotions and realities and retreating into fantasy or denial instead of being real, facing the truth, as we can love to be manipulated right now and want to ignore the red flags just because we can not want to face reality, and this can create a lack of clarity and direction, and we can just feel overwhelmed by emotions right now without a clear path forward. So, seek support, look for support if this affects you. Try and stay grounded and ensure that emotional expression doesn't dissolve into avoidance and disorientation right now, so you're feeling lost, and overwhelmed. It can be overwhelming, the shadow and inner work, right? So sometimes you need to take a break from it, but also you may need to get support. This can be anonymous, phoning a support line like the Samaritans in the UK, so sometimes getting things off your chest can be really good as well. In terms of the spiritual meanings, it opens the door to divine connection and increase intuition. It can sort of level up our ability to tap into the spiritual world, developing a sense of oneness with the universe and a deeper understanding of our own spiritual journey. So it wants us to, use meditation, energy work, Tai Chi, yoga, prayer, affirmations and actions to help us gain more peace within and spiritual happiness, and just take a more compassionate approach to your life and spirituality, where love and kindness become central kind of focuses for your spiritual path, and ask yourself really what practices on the spiritual level do you really want to do right now to help you stay in balance, and to find and heal and manage yourself even. But negatively on the spiritual level, there's a risk of over idealization, falling into illusion again and getting attached to spiritual ideals or people and experiences that are not good, or too rigid, or not being open-minded and exploring different practices. A lot of the time the spiritual path, it is about moving forward. There are core lessons of it, expanding self-awareness, self-mastery and love and acceptance and working with your shadow and inner work, but there's different ways of doing that, different tools, and a lot of the tools we can pick up on our spiritual journey. We do need to let go at different stages so we can move on to the next set of tools, right? So it's important to balance spiritual expression with discernment and ensure that our spiritual path remains grounded and authentic as well. In terms of the esoteric hidden meanings, it wants us to really connect with our dreams, symbols and synchronicities right now. It can kind of just give us mystical insights and make us more aware of transformative energies, and it supports the development of psychic abilities and the expression of past lives, so exploring that, where hidden knowledge can be accessed for personal transformation. If you can do that, you do work in that way, or if you don't, just work with your dreams, your thoughts and ideas. And it just wants us to get into the mysteries of our existence, and this can lead to deepening and spiritual awakening. But negatively, in terms of the esoteric hidden meanings, we can sort of misread and misunderstand psychic and mystical signs and information, and wishful thinking can overshadow true insight right now. So we just need to try and be cautious and use good judgment, and make sure all our actions are grounded in reality and not clouded by illusion right now. In terms of the symbolic and creative meanings, it allows us to be more creative. The world can become a playground for fresh takes, new ways of being and self-expression, and creativity can really grow in its purest form if we, use symbols and be open to being inspired by imagery, maybe tarot cards, imagery of art, whatever it is that stimulates you right now. But negatively, we can lack focus and discipline to, work with symbols and our creativity right now, and projects may remain unfinished or lack coherence, flow. But don't get it twisted, sometimes art is open to interpretation, right? So, try and follow through, but don't be too scared of the lacking flow and lacking coherence thing. But it's important to balance being inspired with practical planning and ensure that creative visions are brought to completion and you nail it with clarity and purpose. So, try and do your best, nail it in your way, not necessarily, how other people may want you to nail creativity right now. So in terms of the emotional meanings, it wants us to make room for emotional intimacy and understanding, emphasizing with ourselves and others, and it really increases our ability to do that. It pushes the healing of our emotions through love and forgiveness. Relationships in turn can be strengthened through mutual support and understanding and compassion right now. And it just wants us to be more nurturing to our emotions and see our vulnerability as a source of strength and use it as one, rather than, seeing it as a sign of weakness or seeing it as a sign of weakness in others and abusing them for it. But negatively also, it can just lead to boundary issues, as I said, emotional exhaustion, and we can just be affected by the emotions of others who can be overwhelming, right? So it's important to practice self-care and create healthy emotional boundaries and ensure that your own well-being is prioritized as you give help to others. Okay, so in terms of the aspects that Venus makes this year when it enters Venus, it makes a semi-square with the sun. This is applying. So this allows us to express ourselves and seek pleasure and enjoyment in our relationships. So this increases our social interactions. We can socialize more. But negatively, because it's a semi-square, it adds to the conflict between meeting our own needs and the expectations of others right now. And this can add to the misunderstandings and unappreciation that can happen. So it's good to use this energy to focus on self-awareness and to communicate openly about your needs and desires, and making sure you're not just going along with what others want and people pleasing, which can be hard to do, but this energy supports us in doing that. Venus makes a trine to Mars, so again this increases our passion and attraction. It's great for creativity and doing the things that we love as well, and being more assertive about what we want right now. But negatively, it can lead to us being impulsive in our decisions, and the excitement may push us to act without fully considering all the consequences, so we just need to watch out for that. The best use of this energy is once again to, vibe with being creative, whether it's dancing, singing, or enjoying time with your loved ones, Venus makes a sextile to Uranus, and this is separating at 0:56. So again, it allows us to be spontaneous, to be excited about life, to break free from routine, explore new things, and this can lead to fresh connections and creative ideas. But our tendency to seek newness for the sake of it can lead to us being unstable right now, especially in our relationships. So we have to just try and be grounded. The best use of this energy is to vibe with the need to try something new, socialize and do the things, activities that challenge your comfort zone. You get outside of your comfort zone. Venus also makes a conjunction to Neptune, and Neptune rules Pisces, right? And it's at a 3.39 applying So this allows us to be more intuitive and creative and to be more compassionate. So this is really good. But negatively, it can add to us being idealistic and ignoring red flags. And this can lead to disappointment if our reality doesn't match our dreams and expectations of our experiences right now. So make sure we're realistic in our expectations to avoid disillusionment in our relationships. Also, at the time of Venus going into Pisces this year, there's a T-square between the Moon in Sagittarius, Chiron in Pisces and Mars in Gemini within the 33% orb, and there's a yard between the Midhaven in Leo, Mercury in Capricorn and Neptune in Pisces, and also a stellium between the Sun, Mercury and Pluto in Capricorn. So the T-square adds to the scattered energy, but allows us to be optimistic, but we can feel the push and pull effect between, the Moon's needs and Sagittarius's needs and Chiron's needs and Mars's needs, So this energy can add to the emotional conflicts that Venus in Pisces can bring. The Moon in Sagittarius clashes with the need to confront our deeper wounds, represented by Chiron in Pisces, and, goes against, the impulsive actions that Mars in Gemini can lead us to as well. So this energy really can really add to the conflict, but ultimately it pushes us to be open about our fears, especially fears around being vulnerable with ourselves and others, and this can push us, trigger us to heal and confront emotional barriers and communicate our needs more clearly, and being open to others being open with us as well. The yard allows us to really work on growth and transformation, allowing us to align our career goals with deeper spiritual insights and be more practical in our communication. And it allows us to mix our ambitions with compassion and creativity, and how we express love and beauty at this time. It wants us to go after things that really inspire us and supports us in doing that in a way that not only inspires others but ourselves as well. There's also a stellium involving the Sun, Mercury and Pluto, as I said, and this brings the structure that allows us to be grounded in the changes, the transformations that we make, right? And it allows us to be drawn to spiritual plans and, to be open to transforming ourselves through the power of loving on ourselves, being more creative and allowing this love and creativity to guide us through our ambitions, our goals right now. So now I'm just going to talk about the karmic meanings and lessons, past life memories and dreams, and collective karma of Venus in Pisces. So in terms of the karmic lessons, it invites us to get deep and dive deep into the ocean of universal love and compassion. It's a time when the veils, the kind of like barriers between past and present, self and other, can become thinner. And as I said, this energy wants us to build more unconditional love for ourselves and others, and forgiveness, and dissolve our boundaries, the boundaries that separate us from one another and from the divine and from our higher selves and our own self-love and respect, It wants us to examine how we loved in our past lives or in past experiences in our current lives as well, and how these, past experiences are still influencing our current relationships, asking ourselves, are we still carrying the weight, the energy of our past heartbreaks and betrayals? Are we hesitant to open up our hearts fully due to ancient wounds of our past lives or unresolved trauma of our current life? And yes, we have to be careful of who we let in, but also we have to be open to letting the right people in, right? So Venus in Pisces supports us in releasing our old patterns and vibing with a more expansive or encompassing self-love and understanding. And the lesson is to love without expectation, to give without the need for receiving back, and understanding that in the grand scheme, tapestry of existence, that every act of love and kindness ripples through time and space, affecting not just our immediate circle but the entire community, family, cosmos, and it teaches us that true love is boundless, transcending the limitations of the ego and connecting us to the universal heart, So in terms of past life memories, they often come in the form of vivid dreams or sudden flashes of deja vu or inexplainable feelings of familiarity with places or people we've never met in this lifetime before. We may find ourselves dreaming of ancient temples, mystical things, where you may have served as, some kind of figure of love, or spent time wandering as a musician, poet, or some other form of spiritual or creative type, spreading joy through music, poetry, and action. Some of you may have dreams and memories that may seem like crap, not good, illusions, false, but if you're not grounded, they may still not be real, so you have to be discerning. It's up to you on to how to work with this energy, right? But ultimately, even if something does seem too good to be true in terms of a dream or whatever, it can be valuable insights into your soul's journey. So it's a good sort of like practice to pay attention to the emotions these visions bring up. Do you feel a sense of longing, wanting, or a sense of unfinished business, something you need to do, or maybe a warm glow of recognition, I know this is true, These feelings and others can guide you towards healing your old wounds on the psychological, emotional and spiritual levels, and, reconnecting with soul connections in your present life, or, just ending, letting go of past experiences so you can be open to the new. In terms of collective karma, it brings karmic patterns that can bring more of a sense of empathy, as I said, a sense of us being connected, also wanting us to be more giving, charitable, being more humanitarian in our ways of doing things. We can just have more of a yearning, low-key want for peace, doing the work, and being more real about our shared pain and vulnerability and strength as a collective, but negatively pain as a collective that we kind of gathered over the centuries, issues related to discrimination, exploration and the misuse of love and beauty can come to the centre of our attention, and we may witness an increase in discussions about human trafficking, the commodification of love, the romantic capitalization on love and romance and stuff, and the environmental impact of our chasing down material beauty over equality in our world and stuff like that as well. So it wants us to reimagine our relationships with each other, with the planet and the divine, higher power, our higher selves. It's an opportunity for mass healing, for choosing love over fear and hate, unity over division, and it reminds us that we're all part of the same cosmic ocean, and the ripples of our actions affect every soul, so just thinking about what we do and not just seeing it as, I can do what I want, but thinking about how our behaviours can affect others. So now I'm just going to talk about how Venus in Pisces affects our relationships. So in terms of family relationships, it can just allow us to have more empathy and forgiveness, and we can find ourselves feeling and being more open about our loved ones' emotions, picking up on their unspoken needs and offering support without being asked, and others can do that for us. It pushes us to be softer in our boundaries without, getting rid of them completely, but being more flexible, and this can allow for deeper emotional connections and healing of our old family wounds. Right now, it can be a great energy to use for family gatherings, game nights, dinner nights, stuff like that, being creative and spiritual together, meditating, working on art, singing, dancing, celebrating your shared history. But negatively, we can idealize family members and overlook issues that need to be confronted and addressed, right? There's a risk so there can be a risk of becoming overly enmeshed, lost in our family right, and losing our personal preferences because of the desire for us wanting things to be peaceful, not wanting to tackle and confront things like Pisces energy, watery, mutable, changeable, so it can make us not have healthy boundaries, and we must keep healthy boundaries. In terms of friendships, they can take on a magical quality. We can have almost telepathic connections with our friends, understanding each other on a soul level, and it's a beautiful energy to use for heart-to-heart conversations, to do said creative plans or explore spiritual interests together. And this compassionate energy of Venus in Pisces can help us heal any difficulties, rifts in our friendships, and it encourages us to be more forgiving and have acceptance unconditionally without ignoring red flags and being people pleasing and not asserting your needs, of course, but it allows us to be more open, and more cooperate and find a middle ground. But we just need to watch out for ignoring red flags, wearing rose-coloured glasses in our friendship, because this can make us more susceptible to manipulation and lies from, those who are not trustworthy and who may take advantage of your increased empathy and desire to help, So it's important to maintain healthy boundaries and not lose yourself in your friends' problems or emotions. So give in without giving of yourself, In terms of our co-worker relationships, it can bring harmony and balance there to improve teamwork, and things can just be more pleasant in the work environment as well. It's great for creative collaborations and projects that require intuitive problem solving and group intuition, but negatively, lines can be blurred between professional boundaries, and this can lead to oversharing and becoming too emotionally involved in workplace politics dynamics, So it's important to balance empathy with being professional to avoid, complications. So just make sure, state boundaries, don't be cold, but make sure you're working within the lines, don't want any lawsuits or anything like that, right? In terms of committed couples, this allows us to deepen our intimacy and spiritual connection, and we can find ourselves more in tune with each other's needs and desires, and experience moments of transcendent unity, and it pushes romantic gestures, shared spiritual experiences, and a renewal of compassion and forgiveness within the relationship. But negatively, there can be a risk of idealizing our partner or the relationship itself. So it's important to remain grounded and not lose sight of practical matters, and be mindful of any tendencies towards codependency or being a martyr in the name of love, sacrificing yourself and not getting things back, and being proud of it, thinking that's what love means. And yes, we have to be there for our partners and give to them and stuff, but it should be equal, right? That's what a lover is. You should be a lover of them and they should be a lover of you, right? They should be committed to you and you should be committed to them. So in terms of hookup relationships, it can bring magic and confusion. Physical encounters may take on a more spiritual, tantric quality, deeper sense of, energies merging and great kind of physical touch and contact here, but the lines can be blurred between casual and committed, and this can lead to misunderstandings or unrealistic expectations. So it's important to communicate clearly about your intentions and boundaries, and don't mislead and lead others on just to get what you want, because this can have consequences. And don't ignore the red flags, or think someone means more by what they say and do right now as well, because the increased empathy and emotional sensitivity of this transit can make casual encounters feel more significant, important than they may be. So just make sure you ask the right questions so you don't get hurt feelings or hurt others' feelings, If you're singled or self-partnered, it wants us to focus on self-love and divine connection with our higher self, higher power. It's a great time for self-care rituals, creative self-expression, and exploring your emotional depths, being more compassionate and nurturing with yourself. But you may fall into patterns of self-pity and unrealistic fantasies about future relationships. So Instead of doing that, use this energy to develop a sense of wholeness and connection to the divine within yourself. And remember, the most important relationship in your life is the one that you have with your own heart and soul. So ultimately, in relationships, Venus in Pisces wants us to open our hearts, love more deeply and compassionately without being too foolish and ignoring those red flags, and go through the emotional waters with awareness and grace. So now I'm going to talk about how Venus in Pisces affects our career, educational, spiritual and self-partner development. So in terms of our career, it allows us to be more intuitive and creative in them. We may be more empathetic with our colleagues and clients, and this can help us to connect more deeply with them. We can also see ourselves rethinking our careers and thinking about changing into ones that help others, especially creatively or spiritually. Our intuition can become a powerful ally in our decision making, and this can lead to inspired choices that align with our soul's purpose. But negatively, the dreamy nature of Pisces can cloud our judgment, making it challenging to set clear boundaries and make practical decisions, and this can lead to workplace illusions and unrealistic expectations, because we can just be susceptible to believing non-truths right now. So we just need to balance our increased sensitivity with being grounded in our professional responsibilities. In terms of our personal development, it allows us to go deep into our emotional world and explore the hidden corners of our minds and psyche and spiritual auras and stuff like that, and just have more compassion and understanding. We can be more in tune to our inner voice, and this can lead to next level profound insights about our desires, fears and motivations. But we just need to watch out for self-deception, escaping, and while it's wonderful to dream and imagine, it's equally important to take concrete steps towards our personal goals and develop more self-love and acceptance, and push ourselves outside of our comfort zone while being loving and gentle with ourselves. And it wants us to face our fears with courage and compassion and be open to truth. In terms of spiritual development, it wants us, this energy opens the gates to transcendent experiences and a deeper connection with the divine. And we might find ourselves drawn to meditation, prayer, or other spiritual practices that can help us tap into universal love and wisdom. And this can bring, deep, profound spiritual insights and a sense of oneness with all that is, but we just need to watch out that we don't spiritual bypass, lose ourselves in esoteric spiritual plans at the expense of practical matters, or just stay on the surface of spirituality, not doing that inner and subtle work that's key to integrating our spiritual experiences into our everyday life, and as we do that, we can allow our spiritual experiences to enrich our relationships with the world around us. And we just have to find that balance between the mystical and the mundane, the practical, In terms of our educational development, it wants us to learn through our heart and to vibe with, do the things that our imagination and emotions connect with, such as reading, working on literature, writing that novel, singing, dancing, creating art, exploring psychology or metaphysical studies, It wants us, this energy helps us to level up our ability to absorb information through experience and feeling rather than just intellectual understanding. But negatively, we may struggle with more structured or analytical forms of learning during this time. So to make the most of this energy, look for educational experiences, learning experiences that allow for creative expression and emotional expression as well. So keeping a dream journal or exploring art therapy as well as deepening your understanding of yourself and the world around you as well. In terms of self-partner development, nurture your relationship with yourself, build more self-compassion and understanding of your emotional needs, and, doing things that can help you connect and nurture with your inner world, such as journaling, writing, singing, dancing, solo retreats in nature, going out, spending time, having a walk, doing anything, listening to nature sounds, anything like that. But watch out for falling into patterns of self-pity or isolation. While it's important to honour your needs for solitude and self-reflection, remember to also maintain connections with others. Use this time to develop a loving relationship with yourself, but also to practice extending that love and compassion to those around you. So ultimately, in all areas of development, this energy wants us to be gentle with ourselves and vibe with the unknown, and to come to trust our intuition and listen to the whispers of our soul, our higher consciousness, our higher self, and allow for love for ourselves and others to guide our paths as well. And remember that true growth often comes not from forcing change, but for allowing yourself to flow with the currents of life, trusting in the wisdom of your heart and the wisdom that the universe holds, and that, believing that the universe holds us all, got a plan for us all, and has room for us all, So now I'm just going to finish up by talking about the best things for us to do. So if you're creative, use this time to get deep into your imagination, whether it be free form painting, poetry, intuitive writing, or composing music. It wants us to level up our ability to channel ethereal energies into more tangible, touchable creations, trying meditation before your creative sessions to tap into the cosmic well of inspiration. If you're professional, it wants you to bring more empathy and intuition to your work and build creative, emotional connections, and implement being more sort of like mindful into your workplace, or maybe organise a charity event and understand others' motives, because this ability is increased right now, and this can help us bring more balance into our workplace relationships, right? Entrepreneurs, use this energy to dream big and trust your instincts, brainstorm new ideas that align with your values and benefit others, consider activities, doing things that look after your wellness, art, spiritual services, and products, offerings, networking events also can lead to magical connections. And remember to balance your visionary ideas with practical planning. Alternative healers use this energy to explore new techniques, modalities like sound healing, energy work, and art therapy. Maybe consider hosting a healing circle retreat to share your gifts right now, or do one for yourself. Taking time out for self-healing as well, maybe a float tank session, or seaside meditation, or going in the bath or having a shower, listening to water sounds, it can be good right now. Lovers can use this to deepen your spiritual and emotional connections, and activities, date nights that nurture, cherish your bond, deepen your bond, meditation, a stargazing picnic, or creating art together, making love, listening to music, dancing. It's a great time for acts of selfless love and forgiveness as well. Singled and self-partnered people should maybe do a nice ritual with yourself using nice incense or any other scents, aromatherapy, music, a soothing bath, doing the things and activities that nurture your soul, volunteer, join a spiritual group, or start a gratitude journal. So ultimately, when Venus goes through Pisces, it wants us to go from being in illusion to being illumined, to awakening, to being truthful, to opening up, right? And it brings both challenges and blessings. We have to find the balance between genuine spiritual love and illusion, fantasies, red flag, ignoring, and manipulations that can come from people's actions on our own, The beauty is that it gives us the chance for transcending, getting over, going beyond and experiencing divine expressions of love and beauty. To make the most of this energy, do random acts of kindness, meditate, open your heart, and do the things that really speak to your higher consciousness and your inner child, Allow yourself to be vulnerable, to love deeply, and to see the divine in every being you encounter, especially yourself. And remember that every moment that you can say right now and every act of compassion you do contributes not only to your own healing of your own karma and your own psychological, emotional and spiritual pain, right, but also to the healing of the world's pain and suffering. So in this eternal dance of Venus with Pisces that happens at least once a year typically, we are invited to vibe with the cosmos, to lose ourselves in the universal unity of love, and to open our hearts a little more to ourselves and to those we can trust, because I am aware we can't just be trusting everyone, but we can love each other at a distance. And there's a song that I like, check it out, Garnet Silk, Love is the Answer. So I'm Amani, your holistic karmic astrological life coach. Take care and see you next time.